Today we are going to talk about dividing decimals. When we divide decimals, we follow this sort of flow chart here. We're going to ask ourselves to start, is the divisor a whole number? So your divisor is that outside number when we put it, set it up to do long division, or that second number, something divided by the divisor. We want that to be a whole number, okay? If it is a whole number, we skip all the way down. If it's not a whole number, our goal is to make it one. And we need to do that by following these steps. Once we've determined that no, our outside number, our divisor, is not a whole number, it is a decimal, we need to move the divisor's decimal to the right until it is a whole number. So we make that outside number, that divisor, a whole number. Once we've made the divisor a whole number, we need to know how many times we move the decimal. So the number of times we moved the decimal. Then we go inside the house to the dividend, and we need to move the dividend's decimal the same number of times. It does not matter if this dividend is a whole number. We don't care. What we care about is that the decimal has been moved the exact same number as the divisor. Okay? So we move the divisor, divisor's decimal, then we move the dividend's decimal, and then we should have a whole number in our divisor. So yes, now we can move the dividend's current decimal straight to the top and divide like usual. Okay, so you ask yourself every time you see dividing decimals, is the divisor a whole number? Yes or no? And then you follow that path. So let's give it a try here. We've got 35 and 49/100 divided by 2 1/10. This is your divisor. So that goes on the outside. 35 and 49/100 divided by 2 1/10. Now, we ask ourselves, is your divisor a whole number? Our divisor is not a whole number. So we go to no. We need to make it one. To do that, we move the divisor's decimal to the right until it is a whole number. So here, if I move it one time, now I have 21. That's a whole number, so we're good to go. I moved it one time. Moving on, I now need to move my dividend's decimal one time. It needs to be the same. Sometimes I like to change colors for this so I can see it. Now, there are 2 numbers after the decimal here, but I only still move that decimal one time. Then I move my dividend's current decimal straight to the top. So it will go in between that 4 and that 9. And now I can divide. I like to now rewrite my problem with my new updated numbers, 21 and then 354 and 9. It just cleans it up so I don't have to worry about those arrows getting me confused. All right, so I go ahead and say 21. I can make my list of multiples if I would like. 42, 63, 84, 105, 126, 47, 168, 189. Okay, so 21, now I just divide like normal. Divide how I normally would. 21 goes into 3 0 times. 21 goes into 35 1 time. 21 times 1 is 21. I subtract. 35 minus 21 leaves me with 14. Bring down my 4. All right, go back up. 21 goes into 144 6 times. 21 times 6 is 126. 144 minus 126 is 18. I can ignore the decimal right now. I'm making sure that my quotient numbers are in line, but I don't need to do anything with that decimal now while I'm dividing. So I bring that 9 down. 21 goes into 189. 9 times. Fits in perfectly. 0 here, nothing more here, so I am done. Note that I did just make sure to put the 9 again in line, so I am conscious of the decimal, but I don't need to incorporate it when I'm actually dividing. So my quotient here is 16 and 9 tenths. All right, let's try another example here. I've got 42 and 5 tenths divided by 25 hundredths. Which one of those is the divisor? Well, I go ahead and set up my problem here. 42 and 5 tenths divided by 0 and 25 hundredths. Okay, so I ask myself, my first step is always to ask myself what? My divisor is not a whole number, so I got to move my decimal. If I move it here, I have 2.5, 2 and 5 tenths. That's not a whole number. So I move it one more, and I'm left with 25, which is a whole number. Now, because I moved my decimal 2 times outside, how many times should I move my decimal inside? Well, 2 times. But here, I only have 1 digit. That doesn't matter. I still need to move it 2 times. So now here, I place a 0, always a 0, because we know after our numbers, we always have zeros. And that's where my new decimal will go. Again, I'm going to rewrite this so I don't get distracted by those arrows. All right, my decimal's at the end here. Okay, so 25 goes into 4 0 times. It goes into 42 1 time. 25 times 1 is 25. 42 minus 25 is 17. Bring down my 5. 25 goes into 175 7 times. 25 times 7 is 175. I subtract and I have 0. Now, here's the thing, and here's where it gets tricky and we need to be very careful. I have 0 here and 0 here, but my decimal is still here, so I can't be done. That can't just be left blank. So I drop down that 0. I say, okay, how many times does 25 go into 0? It goes in 0 times, so I put that there. 25 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. Now I can be done. There's nothing after the decimal, and there's a 0 down here. But I do need to make sure to continue that division all the way up until that decimal point. So my quotient here is 170. Let's do one more problem together. We've got 8 and 64 hundredths divided by 1 and 2 tenths. So I go ahead and set that up. 8 and 64 hundredths divided by 1 and 2 tenths. Okay, how many times will I move my decimal here? Well, I'll move it once outside in my divisor. So I'll move it once in my dividend. Should I continue moving it out to 4 to make this a whole number? Nope. I don't need my dividend to be a whole number. I only need my divisor to be a whole number. That means that decimal goes right up here, and I'm good to rewrite and solve. Okay, 86 and 4 tenths, decimal above, divided by 12. 12 goes into 86 7 times. 12 times 7 is 84. I'm left with 2. I drop down my 4. Again, I can ignore that decimal. All I'm using it for right now is to make sure I help keep my numbers in line. 12 goes into 24 2 times. 12 times 24 is 24. Subtract, I'm left with 0. That means my quotient is 7 2/10.